Alrighty, so this is less of a review than it is a video proposal. I am in love with Jessica Chastain. Sorry. She is probably my favorite actor working today. She is amazing. This is the third one of her films I've seen in a 2-year stretch. Fourth, if you count The Martian. And I am constantly blown away by her. She is just that good. I like her intelligence. I like her dedication to the projects that she selects. These aren't, you can tell when you watch her movies, these aren't films that are just kind of selected henny penny. She's not just kind of going around and going, oh, I need to work, gotta do this, gotta do that. Of course, I heard a rumor she's in talks to be in the new X-Men movie, so Jessica, please don't. You're too good for those. But man, I love her acting. I love the movies that she's in. And if anything could get me to go see the second It movie, it's the fact that she's in it. So yeah, Molly's Game. Not quite as good as Miss Sloane, which was my favorite movie of 2016, but it's up there. So if you haven't heard of this film, it's a true story about a former Olympic level skier, snow skiing, who, after her career ended by an injury, through circumstances that are too complex to kind of get into in just a brief review, ends up running these incredibly high-stakes poker games with celebrities and congressmen and criminals and all this stuff, and the legal trouble that she gets into, for which she hires a lawyer played by Idris Elba, and it's a whole thing. It's one of those movies that jumps backwards and forwards in time to certain places. What I like, but unlike a lot of movies in which that is true, in this one, when it's jumping back and forth, it seems like it's filmed different. There are different small things that the director, Alan Sorkin, who, I've never been a huge fan of, but he wrote and directed this movie and did a pretty darn good job of it. I gotta say, I've never really been a fan of his writing. Not that it's not clever, it's just, it's too fast and too, boom, boom, boom to be natural, and I like natural. But anyway, so in his directing of this film, when things are in the past, they're a little grainy. The film's a little grainy. The angles are a little lower to kind of take it from a kid's point of view, almost. When she's in when she's telling the story about becoming kind of the princess of poker is what they call her. It's a bit brighter. It's a nice contrast between bright and dark. When things are dark for her, they're very dark. When they're bright, they're really bright. And when it's in what I guess would be the present, as she's going through the legal things with Idris Elba, it's filmed very naturally. Like you were just flipped on a not so much a documentary, but it's there's not a lot of tricks. It feels like it's much more tangible. So neat things to kind of help you keep track. There's little visual cues to help you keep track of what's going on. So, wow, what do I say about this movie? It's really hard to describe. When I'm sitting here thinking about it, and I've had a little bit of time between when I saw the movie and when I'm doing the review, and I'm trying now to think, how do I talk about this movie? Well, let's start with the basics. Let's start with the easy stuff. So the acting is phenomenal. So of course I've professed my undying love towards Jessica Chastain. So Miss Chastain, if you're watching, if you ever want to slum it, with a high school drama teacher, I'll take your name. I'll be Brandon Chastain. I'll be a house husband. I'm fine with that. I'm good. Anyway, sorry. But she's phenomenal. She is absolutely phenomenal. Idris Elba is phenomenal in this as well, which he's always been good. But in terms of his movies, I've never seen him in something where he could really cut loose. You know, he was good in the Thor films, you know, just because he has that great voice. Dark Tower is garbage. This, I mean, he is so good. He is like, he gives this huge speech towards the climax of the film, which is just fantastic. And everything about him is just really good in this movie. It also, I gotta give credit to people who are in this movie who I am not huge fans of, who were also very good. Michael Cera is in this movie, and I've never really been big on him. He's never been, you know, like a favorite actor or anything. Is that little, you know, awkward kid thing he has got old fast, but he's pretty good in this. Kevin Costner, who I've always found very wooden. I've always found him a very wooden performer, but here is good. You know, channeling his version of Pa Kent there in the, you know, the dick father role, but he is really good. He has a really great. He and Jessica Chastain have a really great scene at the very end of the movie. Father and daughter, not so much reconciling, but just talking, and it's really, really amazing. So the acting is top notch. This is one of the best acted films I've seen all year, and I've seen some good ones. The script is very tight and very interesting, and it runs kind of all over the place in a good way. It keeps things interesting and changing. There's a lot of voiceover, which is not a bad thing. I know it's based on a book, and I assume that what Jessica Chastain is reading is actually excerpts from the book. It's what it sounds like. I don't know. So there's a lot of voiceovers, but unlike, well, what can sometimes happen with voiceovers, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit with the Greatest Showman review, is that what can sometimes happen with that is people use voiceovers to, you know, be a cheap way to get exposition out and all this, and they don't give you a lot of time for character development and all of this. But even though there's a ton of narration in this film, I don't feel like we missed anything. I don't feel like they were using it as a, you know, a crutch to not do character development. But yeah, the dialogue is very quick. The dialogue is very back and forth. You know, there are a couple scenes with, you know, Jessica Chastain and Idris Elba where they're just, boom, those lines are just coming, baby. And again, that's Alan Sorkin's. That's kind of one of his things, part of his style. So that the only problem I had with that is, again, it's the same thing I kind of had with any of his shows and whatnot. Is, again, that doesn't feel very natural at all. It feels very. It's too scripted. Nobody's going to come up with zingers and everything that quickly without having to think about it. And I know that you have to, you know, suspend disbelief and whatnot, but still, it's a little too well rehearsed. The other thing I can say, and you know, it's based on this young lady's life, and again, when you hear a film that's based on someone's actual life, you're never sure where, you know, to, you know, paraphrase the X-Files in relation to P.T. Barnum, you never know where the truth ends and the humbug begins. But if it's true, and I'm gonna give this film the benefit of the doubt that most of it's true, this girl had an amazing life, and it's just a very fascinating story of how she went from a Olympic skier to running this game. This high-stakes poker game, and all the pitfalls and everything thereof. This does what a biopic or a film based on a real person should do, is that it really does make me want to go and learn more about Molly Bloom and go, okay, how much of this is true? Because the major thing that they keep harping on, this is where the kind of the lawsuit comes in, is, okay, so she gets indicted, because she had all these high-powered people at her poker games, basically. And by being there, she overheard all this stuff. She knows all these secrets. And the federal government, basically, because she did one illegal thing, she only did one thing that was illegal, basically comes down on her like a ton of bricks. Basically, so she'll roll over and give them all this information on all these people that were in her poker game, and she never does it. She refuses to roll over for them. And it's that willingness to kind of go down with the ship is a fascinating character trait, and they explore it in a really, really clear and well thought out way, in that as I'm watching it, I never felt like they were doing it just for the drama. This was created just to give us some kind of big thing for Act 3. No, it felt like it was a natural progression. You understood the character's line of thought. You understood why she was doing it. And you understood, where she was coming from. I also like that even though they're showing that at her heart she was a good person, I like how they don't shy away, and the character doesn't shy away from the bad things she did. This is one of the few films I've ever seen where the character really feels bad for the bad things they did. And really, even though they profited off of it and they did all this, that she feels this kind of moral obligation to people for the damage she did to their lives. That she encouraged gambling problems, that she was a drug addict, that she was a drunk, and it's ownership of those things and not a attempt to hide it. And I like that, because a lot of films will kind of brush over that, and a lot of films will kind of I don't know why I'm spacing so much on this. A lot of films will just kind of try to sweep it under the rug. This movie really lets the character own those things and makes it a part of her motivation, which is really refreshing. I think there are a few times when the direction kind of gets in its own way, kind of like with Kenneth Branagh's Murder on the Orient Express. There's a lot of stuff where you're like, okay, I think you're now just trying to get a little too tricky here. But it's minor. It's very, very, very minor. I don't know what else to say. I legitimately don't know what else to say about it. This is going to be one of those really, really short videos, because I don't know what else to talk about. This movie is just really fantastic, and there's not a lot of backlash to talk about like with Star Wars. It's just a really good movie. It's tremendously acted, written, and directed. What more do you want? So I would very, very highly recommend this movie, and it's one of those films that's not going to be out for long. So if you haven't seen it, I say you need to go and take care of that right away, because you're going to be really sorry if you don't. So go check this one out. I recommend it. Lovely. And Jessica Chastain, if you're watching this, thank you for being the awesome actor that you are. We need more like you. And marry me. Boy, wouldn't it be a trip if that worked. Anyway. So yeah, glad I caught this one. I think it may cause me to redo some best of lists for the end of the year. So I got one more film that I'm going to go see as part of my, last ditch at the movies before got to go back to real life. So I'm looking forward to it. So fingers crossed, hope it's good. So until then, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.